I have a pleasure to have a conversation with Stephan. Our today's webinar is called From Zero to Authority, Crafting a Winning Link Building Strategy. Before we will start, guys, I just wanted to ask you for confirming that you can hear and see me very well. Can you please write something on the chat so we know that everything works fine? Yeah, I can hear that everything is cool. Okay, a couple of technical details. So the webinar will last for an hour. And the entire session will be recorded, and obviously it's going to be shared with you guys. So you don't need to make any notes. You can easily check it after the event. If you haven't accepted yet the consent for sharing with you the video, you can check the chat of today's meeting, and there's going to be a link where you can actually fill all the necessary details, and then the video will be shared with you guys as well. So don't worry about the recording. Just leave us some details, and you will get it. Obviously, guys, if you have any questions during the session, just drop the questions in the chat. If we will find time after the meeting, we will obviously place the questions on the screen, and we will try to answer as many of them as it is possible. If I have it just a second, let me just mention that it's definitely worth to also subscribe to our channel on YouTube. So if you want to be updated with all the materials and content that we share with the industry, please check our YouTube channel and subscribe for more. Yeah, but let's not waste time for technical details. Now it's the time to introduce properly our experts. Let me introduce Stephan Czysch, the founder of Search Analyzer, and obviously top-notch expert and freelance SEO consultant. Welcome, Stephan, today. It's a pleasure to have you here during the session. And tell us a few things about yourself, please.
Okay, all right. So thanks, Bartosz. Thanks for having me. What is interesting to know? Yeah, maybe my background is information scientist. So I was basically studying how you can structure information in the web and make them retrievable by search engines. Yeah, whether it's being Google or whether it's being any other kind of search engine that is around. I've been working as an in-house SEO, then starting my career with my own agency. Right now, I'm doing quite a lot of freelance projects, so jumping in on projects and helping in-house SEO teams achieve more and build better websites. Because even if, or from my perspective, there are many people that know SEO, but when you're asking them what are your priorities, what are you working on, what are the steps you are doing to ultimately reach your goal, then it could always be a bit of, okay, yeah, we are doing this, we're doing that, but sometimes you see that the topics that are being worked on are not the ones with the highest impact at the business at the end. Other things that might be interesting, I'm currently here in Berlin, currently standing here in my office space, and then heading over to a client after this call.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Stephan, for the introduction. Now we're going to have a chance to have a main discussion about the things that are worth to discuss. But before we will jump into the questions that I will ask you, I just wanted all you guys to be more familiar with the context of our today's meeting, because you might think like, why German top-notch SEO expert is talking to the guy from WhitePress who is responsible for different markets. So the context of the meeting is actually quite simple. In around a month, there's going to be a conference in Helsinki. The conference is called Nordic SEO Summit. And the reason why we're here is because we will all meet there in different roles. Stephan obviously will be one of the top notch experts sharing their expertise on stage. Obviously, there will be more decent speakers there, so we can check the details on the website. We as WhitePress are always eager and open to support diverse events all over the world, and we're going to support as sponsors the event in Helsinki. We definitely recommend you guys to join the event. A lot of nice networking, a lot of knowledge to be shared. So if you want to know more, just please click the link on the top of the screen that you can see right now. You can find all the details on the website. Alternatively, if you have some more questions, please contact Jan Peter Russo, the organizer of the conference, and his team, right? So now you know the reason of the meeting. We will meet there and cooperate hand in hand with the event. Okay, Stephan, if you don't mind, let's jump into the questions and the things that we're going to discuss today. Let's start with the first question. There was a lot of conversation about domain authority and the importance of this parameter in SEO in general, but basically in link building. So the question to you is domain authority still a meaningful metric in 2025? Or maybe Google, has shifted to something else that we should focus on?
Yeah. So it shouldn't be the main KPI I would focus on, to be honest, because there are always ways how you can trick it. So ultimately, it was coming from the old PageRank concept. And when we were talking about SEO 15 years ago, you still had this toolbar PageRank number, which was a number between 0 and 10. And the higher the value was, the more trustful or the more authoritative the website looked. And then SEO tool providers starting to refactor the metrics and build their own one, like domain authority. Others are calling them trust flow or citation flow or any other equivalent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we always need to keep in mind that we don't know how Google is going to value various things. Mm-hmm. From my perspective, it makes sense that they are trying to build some sort of authority metric for a website in general, like saying, I'm trusting this website quite well. That's something we can see right now also with Reddit that are gaining visibility in Google search. So obviously this page seems to have quite a lot of trust. And then ultimately the trust tends to be something which has an impact on your website. However, the thing I would focus on is always, is this website topic-wise related to your content? Because what we want to do with building links is making connections between pages that are having my target audience on their website when they're not on mine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So meaning the stronger the website is, meaning the more backlinks they have, the better it ultimately will be. However, I would always focus on the quality of the website. Is it going to fit the content of my site? And is it going to have as much traffic as possible? Yeah. Because ultimately, it's not about the link. It's always about the traffic I can get to my website by being visible on another person's website. So this summing up, if a website has a low domain authority, but it's super relevant for my niche, it's still worth to cooperate with them. And we also need to keep in mind, it's just the score they have now, because the website can evolve. So if they have just started up, then their metric will be maybe on a scale from 0 to 100, they may will be at a 10, but they can grow over time. And then it can get harder and harder for you to get a link from the site. So if it's relevant for you, if you think that the target audience is on the site, then always try to get there as early as possible and also as often as possible, I would vote.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And you mentioned about the DA and you suggest not to focus too much on this parameter. But my next question is, like, apart from this DA thingy, what are the most common mistakes that companies make when they try to build the authority through link building?
Yeah.
What do you usually discover when you work with clients or partners?
Yeah. So usually I would always go for on-page SEO first. So what you would need to do is building an excellent website, an excellent article, an excellent piece of content on your site, and basically ticking all the boxes for our on-page SEO, meaning clear heading, good internal website structure, clear internal anchor text, and things like that. And then ultimately you could focus on off-page SEO. So how much backlinks do I need for my website in general? How many backlinks do I need on particular to this specific subpage? And so even in very competitive niche, it's usually not the case that websites are building thousands of links to one individual page. So you can also see quite a lot of rankings for URLs that not having any direct external link pointing to them. Yeah. So the website definitely has in links, but the strongest signal is always going to start with on-page SEO. So building up relevancy and building up popularity within your site with, as I said, proper anchor text, link placements, and things like that. Yeah. So one thing most websites are overweighting is basically the need of how many links do I need to have. Yeah, it's not like that you need to have a domain popularity of 10 pointing to a specific site. Usually it's the case on a trusted website, even without having a link directly to the page you want to rank with, you can still be in the top 10 results. And what I would always check is going to one of the big link databases. Or first thing is performing a search that I want to rank for, then extracting the ranking pages. I have a very neat Google Chrome extension called Sub-Snippet Extractor. So you can just click on the extension logo and then you get all the information from the Google SERPs, like which page is ranking. You're also getting the position and the pixel rank, meaning how many pixels is this particular listing away from the top. Yeah, because ultimately it makes a difference whether Google is placing an AI overview or a featured snippet or 5 ads above the organic results. And then you see, yes, it's the same position 1, but your position 1 can be directly in the visible area, or you have to scroll below the fold and things like that. So what I would do, performing a search, extracting the search results, then going to a link database and checking how many backlinks do those particular pages that are currently ranking have. And then you will usually see that the most of them are not having a backlink at all, or maybe just 1, 2, or maybe 5 or 10. Yeah, it all depends on the niche. So the more competitive it gets, usually then those teams have focused more both on-page and off-page SEO. So these pages then have more backlinks, but it's not like you need to build 20, 50, 100 different domains in linking to one specific site. So Bartosz, I currently can't hear you.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm back. So basically, I guess you should keep the complexity of the movements and do it in the right order, right? That's the plan.
Yeah. So maybe when we're thinking about SEO 15 years ago, I would say that off-page was weighted much more than it is now. Yeah, off-page is still important, and there are quite a few guys that are neglecting the impact of off-page SEO on the overall performance. However, when I was starting with SEO, it was more like, okay, I'm going to pay an agency or any link building service with tons of money, because you could easily rank just by building up many links, also from, let's say, maximum okay-ish quality. Yeah. And then it was much easier to have, let's say, an okay-ish website. So like the target page itself was okay, but it was not perfect. And then you were basically hammering quite a lot of backlinks on it, and then it was ranking. Nowadays, this has become much more difficult. So it's more like focus on your on-site metrics first, build a great user experience, build a great site in general, and then focus on the off-page part, and then rather focus on quality than just on pure quantity.
Got it. Yeah. So I think if you think about it, it sounds quite clear. The market is, apart from the rules that are run by Google, of course, the more challenging market we have, the more details we need to, focus on, and more things we need to care about if you want to be ranked properly, right? So I totally agree with you. And we also observe this when we work with our clients, right? Obviously, as WhitePress, we are focused on offsite SEO, but when we talk to agencies or clients that we cooperate with, we see how many strategies and how many complex things they do in a proper way and in proper order, because this is the only way that makes sense, right? So totally clear. Okay, Stephan, next question. You're an expert, and you attend a lot of conferences. We also visit a lot of meetings and participate in a lot of discussions. And there was like one statement that usually appears during every conversation, like that when it comes to link building, 2025 and probably next year's will be more about the quality of links instead of the quantity. So right now it sounds a little bit like a cliche, and it's a general rule that if you run the business, it's better to focus on the quality than the quantity. But what does it exactly mean for you? Like how do you balance the quality of the quantity when it comes to backlinks?
Yeah. As I've said earlier, so the ultimate goal is usually getting people aware of your existence and aware of your content, what kind of content that you have. So therefore, you should always focus on websites that are basically serving your target audience. And if you can then get a link from them, no matter whether it's being follow or it's being sponsored or whatever, this is beneficial for you as a company. Yeah, from the pure SEO perspective, you always want to have follow links quite high in the page with a decent anchor text. But I would rather focus on, is my target audience on the page? Is this page having a lot of traffic exactly on this article that is linking to me? Yeah, because it doesn't make too much of a sense that you are publishing something which is buried quite deep into the website. Yeah, so it's much better that this link is going to get traffic. And there's also maybe some misconceptions. So because there are quite a lot of websites that stopped linking to other pages because they understood the value of links, and they're just naming you. So they're just saying like WhitePress.com or something. Yeah. So then it's just a brand mention without any link associated to it. And it also makes sense that search engines are going to value this. Yeah, maybe not in the same extent as they are valuing let's say a classical link, but this is still a signal that somebody is talking about your website, it's talking about your brand, and this could help to basically amplify everything you do. Yeah, if you're talking about all these large language models, they're also focusing on which brands are occurring in a specific topic, and this is also something Google is using for their search algorithms and for their search rankings. So meaning, if people tend to look for your brand in combination with generic keywords, this is always something which is going to be highly, highly beneficial. But to sum it up, ultimately it's the question, is my target audience on the page?
Yeah,
how can I benefit from this traffic? And the stronger the website is, the better. But ultimately, it's all about relevance. So meaning, if Jan wants to advertise for the Nordic SEO Summit, then it might be interesting to be mentioned by the biggest newspaper in Finland. However, it would be much more beneficial for him if he's going to be linked from an SEO kind of website. Yeah, whether it's being a LinkedIn group, which is focusing on the Nordics, or whether it's a local SEO blog, or whether it's the international SEO blog that is mostly consumed by Nordic people living in the Nordics. Yeah, so it's all about relevance here at the end.
Okay, thank you. If you have this right target, right, and you focus on the quality, doing link building in 2025, what do you think about the strategies to acquire links? Like, do you think it's still possible to earn links or get links for free, or you think it's like, a paid game? I'm personally interested in your answer, because, as you know, as WhitePress, we sell content and links. So I'm really curious about how our potential clients can manage this part. So how do you think it works in 2025?
Ultimately, I would always say it's both. So also, if you're checking the Google guidelines, or how they call it nowadays, the Google Webmaster Essentials, I think, they changed the naming. So they're also saying it's completely okay to inform people about the piece of content that you're offering. Yeah, because you always need to keep in mind, we are kind of an information overload. So there are that many news circulating. You can open your LinkedIn feed, refresh it in 30 seconds, and it looks like the complete world has changed. Yeah. So meaning the chances that somebody is able to see your content have been diminishing over time. Yeah. So if you're going back 15 years, then it was like there was quite a lot of blogs around, and they were linking to each other. They were having their websites interlinked with RSS feeds, so you could gain visibility just by basically doing the usual things. But then all those changed, and the people that we tend to call bloggers 15 years ago, they have converted to being influencers, and they're shifting their platform. So they were saying, okay, why should I invest my time in building my own blog and being completely in the hands of Google? Nowadays, they are in the hands of the social network they're using. But for them, the exposure they can get is much easier to gain than through classical SEO. Because if nobody knows you, nobody's coming to your site. If nobody's coming to your site, the chance that you're going to get links are quite low. Yeah. So ultimately, informing people is completely fine. Offering them content that is interesting for them is even better. And then if everything fails, then it's also, when you're performance-driven SEO, I would say, yes, maybe buying links is not 100% what Google is looking for, but it still works. And your goal is usually to deliver results. And if yours can say, okay, I ticked every box I can with the on-page SEO I did. And I'm also trying to execute organic link building. And now there is a webmaster requesting something for their time they are investing to write this content. Then so may it. Yeah. So then you have to give them a compensation for their time.
Yeah, sure. I think it makes sense because when you think about different link building strategies, it's just a matter of the time that you need for executing it, right? That's why we like to call ourselves a marketplace or a platform that simplifies the process, right? Because obviously you can spend a lot of time on finding the place where you can acquire the link, and it makes sense, obviously, if there is a good connection. But if you don't have enough time and you still want to rank properly, you can buy some high quality content and high quality backlinks and achieve the same goals in a shorter time. That's what we basically do. We simplify the process, right?
Yes. And it's not like, Bartosz, maybe just one comment. So it's not that this is completely against Google's guidelines. So Google is aware that you can buy editorials from newspapers and things like that, and everything is fine as long as you're following the rules of the search engine. So like adding the nofollow tag or using the sponsor tag or whatever, so that you're basically clearly indicating to a search engine, we are doing this publication, and there was some sort of compensation being given to the publisher. But this is how the connection is, like sponsored or whatever.
Sure. Okay, and when it comes to like executing the process and how businesses should actually prioritize the efforts in regards to link building, what is the balance between the content creation and the link acquisition? What do you think? What makes more sense for you?
So this is quite curious, because there are so many companies out there which are investing heavily in the content creation process. Like content doesn't need to mean that it's just pure text. So maybe they're creating a video which is super compelling, and then basically nothing happens, because the only distribution they're doing, or the only seeding they are doing, is on their own website. Maybe if they're lucky, they have a newsletter or any good social presence, then they're also posting it there. But usually you're putting something out there, and then nobody ever knows that you are existent. So I would say that most companies are undervaluing or underestimating the necessity to do a proper seeding or outreach campaign and getting the content, let's say, in the awareness of your target audience, and also in the awareness of potential amplifiers of those contents. So basically meaning influencers. So for me, ultimately, it's not that important how they are making their readers aware of my content, because the ultimate goal that I have is getting as much traffic to my site as possible. If this is also relevant for Google, meaning for traditional search engine, then it's even better, because then I have a long-term effect. But ultimately, what I want to have is people talking about my brand, talking about my content, linking to it, interacting with it. So if the classical distribution is like, okay, we're doing this content marketing campaign and we are investing, let's say, 5K in the content creation, but we're not reserving any budget for the content seeding, then usually those things are going to fail, because then nobody's going to see it. So I would try to have at least a split of 2/3 to 1/3. And so 2/3 for the content creation of the total investment I'm doing, and 1/3 for the seeding. This doesn't need to mean that I'm paying somebody. It's more like that I'm attributing my time and attributing my resources to do this the seeding process, because, as I said, otherwise nobody's going to know that this content is existing, and then it doesn't make sense to invest quite heavily in the content creation process in the first place.
Got it. Okay, Stephan, one more question in relation to the content.
Yeah.
Initially, it was a question about the role of topical authority and how important it is, but we all agree that it's super important, and the importance actually still grow. What do you have any tips in regards to building the topical authority as a complex strategy? This is a very wide strategy, so we all know that we can go very much into details or just keep some basic guidelines for it. But what is your particular tip for topical authority?
Okay, it's not going to be an easy answer, because ultimately, usually when you're thinking about SEO and how SEO has been evolving over the last couple of years, it was more like from individual contributors doing some magic tricks at the end, and then was ultimately gaining more traffic. Nowadays, you need to incorporate SEO in your overall marketing strategy. So what is the goal of the company? What does the company stand for? And then you can start creating content around it in the first place, because you need to build up the relevance. And then it's about, how can I distribute the content? And the question for the distribution can be answered through SEO, because people are searching for it. It could also be that it's a pure paid media play. So meaning I need to spend money that somebody's going to interact with my content. Yeah. So I would always say, first off, as a company, decide on the priorities, then come up with content ideas and what content do we want to stand for, and then think about the channels in the last step. So usually in traditional SEO, it tended to be the other way around. So the SEO came up with an idea, then they were creating infographics, interactive tools, and whatsoever. And it could happen that it was completely disconnected from what the brand wants to do. Yeah? And if you can get more people into the bus, that's always better. Yeah, because if you're lucky and working for a big company, then you have a PR team which could help you with all the contacts that they have. They may have also some good understanding how to approach them, when to approach them, and things like that. And if you can get everybody working on the same goal, then you may have also the chance to integrate this, let's say, non-commercial content piece in your commercial newsletters you're going to send out to your clients, because you as a company want to raise the awareness of what you have done.
Okay. Got it. And let's jump a bit back to the moment when you said about when you presented your approach on a good evaluation or the good research before you start doing the or executing the proper strategy. I'm thinking about good competitors backlink analysis. Do you have any tips in that matter? Like, how can companies use or what kind of analysis that can do, what kind of tools that they can use to get the proper information as a part of the preparation for the strategy?
So SEO success is always the result of creating good on-page SEO and then having the popularity. So meaning if you're going to copy or just check what your competitors are doing, then it seems to be at least in the right direction, because they're ranking because they ticked all the boxes. So reverse engineering what they have done can help you to keep up with them, but overtaking always needs to have some sort of extra mile, because if you're just replicating what somebody else has been doing, then it's quite hard to overtake somebody. Yeah, but looking into how are the websites that are currently performing well, how are they doing the on-page SEO, what backlinks do they have, can I get the same backlinks, seems to be or is a legit strategy, because if Google would completely distrust this approach, these pages would not rank at all. So then going to backlink profiles, databases like Majestic, Ahrefs, and others, where you have a good overview of the links that are pointing to the site. Small remark: no database knows all the backlinks. Yeah. So if you're comparing it for your own website and looking, for example, in Google Search Console, then looking in Ahrefs, then maybe looking in Systrix, then looking in, I don't know, link research tools, and you're combining the data, then you will always see, okay, I have found those 3 links in these tools, but not in the other tools. Yeah. And then you're ending up with much more backlinks ultimately than you can only see in one specific tool. Yeah. So reverse engineering what worked quite well for others can help you to keep up. But if you want to overtake somebody, you need to do the extra mile and come up with different ideas, different approaches. And yeah, maybe also with much more recent signals. Yeah, because also it makes sense from a search engine perspective that they're not over focusing on historic backlinks. Yeah, it's more like who's currently being discussed, who are the sources that are currently getting quite a lot of traction because people are linking to it, because people are searching for the brand, etc. So this is something I, as a search engine, would potentially overweight than just saying, okay, how many backlinks does this website have over their complete existence?
Got it. Okay, Stephan, now I need to ask the question that we can hear very, very often right now in many discussions. How about the Google updates? What do you personally think about how they affect and how this update should change the approach on link building? Because there are many theories. Obviously, there is a rumor around that. And I'm curious about your thoughts about it.
Yeah. So personally, I have the feeling that most people tend to stay away from off-page SEO in general because they think, okay, I'm going to be penalized straight away. Yeah. But this is nothing I can observe. Yeah. It's all, from my perspective, it's also quite curious that link building tactics that you thought to be lay in the graveyard and being digged there for many, many years seem to work nowadays again. Yeah. Like getting a lot of backlinks from repurposed expired domains. Yeah. And maybe also quite explicit anchor text, so meaning hard anchor text, only the words you want to rank for. Yeah. So it's always, I would always say, you are as an SEO, you are there kind of to some extent for the performance of the organic search. Yeah. So the first thing I always do, and I already said this, focus on on-page SEO first, build the best experience possible, make the pages you want to stand out in your website being stand out, so meaning link to them more often with the fitting anchor text, don't have overlapping internal anchor text, and so on and so forth. So all the classical SEO things. And then focus on off-page. Yeah? And it's completely okay to have also the classical keyword anchor text, so meaning just being linked with the word link building, for instance. Yeah, I would not overdo it, and it needs to make sense in the context of the link. Yeah, so if there's somebody saying, okay, Bartosz and Stephan had a session about link building, and here you can find more information about how to build CBD gums online. Yeah, there's a complete disconnect. Yeah, between the sentence before and the sentence afterwards. So something like this, I would not do. But yeah, I'm not having the feeling that you should completely stay away from off-page, because it still has its role in the algorithms. It still has something to do with the authority you have as a website. And it can also positively impact all these large language models, because they're also based on web data to some extent. Yeah? So they're also crawling the web. And if they then can find your brand appearing, either mentioned purely as a name or also being linked, this is something I would also incorporate in my large language models. Yeah. So therefore, you can basically hit two flies with one clap. I'm not sure whether this is a correct translation from German to English. I think it's not.
Yeah, but I
would always focus. Huh?
I mean, I got your point. Please go on. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So, yeah, I think that's it. But if you have a follow-up question on this one, Bartosz, then...
Well, no, I just because this is something what we also observe, from our perspective when we work with our clients. We have clients all over the world. They operate in a different scale, and no matter which Google update we consider, all our clients that has been working in a reasonable way and they worked smart, didn't go too far, with the irrelevant links and the scale of irrelevant links. I'm sorry. Yeah. They are still safe after all these updates, right? I think the biggest problem was related to either the clients or agencies or the websites that were managed without a wider sense, right? That's the problem, and then that's the moment when Google updates, and these are the cases when Google updates really hit hard these websites, right? So it makes sense. It corresponds to what you've said. Okay, Stephan, next question. Obviously, we're not going to avoid the conversation about AI, and I want to ask you about a couple of AI tools that you usually use in your work. But before that, I wanted to ask about smaller businesses or smaller agencies, like how small businesses can actually compete right now with big brands or big businesses. Simplifying their processes using different tools. What's your approach on that? What do you think? How they can actually compete?
You mean compete in general, or compete with specific tools?
Well, I'm thinking about because when it comes to the scale of the business and at the same time the revenue and something that we call a success in business, right? In scaling, it was a lot more difficult in the past because usually business owners or agency owners didn't have so many resources to grow, right? And it was hard to compete with big players. And how does it work right now if you can actually use the tools in SEO and you can simplify your work using different tools? Is there still the same gap between big ones and the small ones, or there are some tools that can help in growing small businesses and compete the big ones?
Okay. So ultimately, one of the most time-consuming tasks in off-page SEO or outreach is always having the contacts. So now, first off, knowing the websites you want to work with. On the other hand side, having the contacts. So therefore, using databases and then evaluating the quality they can offer is something that could speed up the process quite easily, especially for smaller business, because I don't have dedicated experts that could just work 40 hours a week to do everything, which is, let's say, link management, content creation, content outreach, and things like that. So with all the databases that you have, either from publishing perspective, so who could place my content on their site, or who could talk about my website, there we have solutions. On the other hand side, we could just purely look on Google and doing some Google searches around the topic that I want to rank for and extract the ranking websites from there. But then I'm still having the missing connection of how can I now get in contact with these people? Yeah. And then you need to look up email addresses and things like that. Also for this, you can have tools, but then it can get quite costly. So sometimes it's the simpler choice to just go for one integrated solution who has the database of websites in a specific topic, and also have the context and then I can just speed up the complete outreach process.
Okay, cool. So you still think small businesses can chase the big players as well using the tools, right?
Yeah, maybe not on all keywords, but especially if you're a small website, maybe then your goal is to rank locally, and their SEO is kind of a different game. Yeah, so when you want to rank for, let's say, car insurance completely in Poland, Germany, Finland, or whatever, then it's a different game. Or compared to you want to rank for car insurance agency in a city, because then
of course,
local results, and there the ranking criteria are smaller, and then you don't need to have that many backlinks, for instance. Yeah, then maybe it's also completely sufficient to have mentions and backlinks from the most important yellow pages websites. Yeah, in your niche. So it's not like you need to have 500 links, 200 links. Yeah, some websites are ranking quite well just by pure on-page SEO and, let's say, general brand signals. So when somebody's looking for you, yeah.
Okay, sure.
So it all depends on which keywords you're going to target, on the competition around those keywords, and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's also possible to rank just with a very small backlink portfolio on your site.
Okay. Thank you. We are just coming almost to the end, but I have a question in regards to digital PR. As we all know, the demand for these kind of offsite SEO strategy grows right now, and we actually launched in WhitePress services related to digital PR because we see that a lot of clients are actually requesting this. But how it looks from your perspective? What do you think about this strategy, and do you use it? Do you have any recommendations in that field?
It all depends on how it's being executed, because SEO tend to be quite creative in just putting a different label onto the same thing they are doing since ages. Yeah, so it all started with pure link building, I would say, approximately 20 years ago. Yeah, so when there were these PageRank oriented link building strategies around, and maybe widget links, so you were providing any sort of small code that somebody could integrate in your website. Then it evolved a bit, and people were not focusing too much purely on the link and saying, okay, I need to offer specific content, so let's call it content marketing. Then this became a bit outdated, and now we are labeling it digital PR. So I think generally focusing on your customer, focusing on the information needs of your customers, and then coming up with anything that is worth to be shared or linked to in the web is highly beneficial. And whether you call it classical PR or online PR or digital PR or content marketing or content seeding or content outreach or outreach strategies, there are so many different labels you could put on it. But ultimately, it's always the same thing. So where is my target audience, and how can I get their attention? Yeah. So therefore, having some sort of seeding approach behind what I'm doing is going to be key to acquire traffic, to acquire backlinks, and then also ultimately grow your SEO. Yeah. So everything is connected to each other.
Got it. Makes sense.
And then we are still facing the same issues as we had before. First off, I would need to know which websites are around there, where my target audience is, and how can I get in contact with them. So the game has not changed that much. It's always about context, content, on context, contacts, and content. So these are the 3 C's. Okay.
CCC, right? Okay. Thank you for this recommendation. Okay, let's focus on a daily basis work. I actually have a very short question to you. Like, can you list 3 tools that you would definitely recommend for, or even more if you want? But can you list like 3 tools that SEOs that want to work efficiently should use on their daily basis? What's your recommendation about it?
I would always go for Google search in the first place, because you want to find pages that are relevant for a specific topic, and Google is still then the best source. Yeah, you could also try to do the same thing with ChatGPT and others, but as you know, there's still some hallucinations, and then they're just pretending that there is a website out there which has never been existent. Yeah. So therefore, going to Google, performing a search, then extracting the results, for example, with the extension from my site, or you can go to your SEO tool, performing the search there, and then grabbing the results. Ultimately, it's always the same step. So building your initial seed list. Yeah. Then the second thing is how you can get the contact details. Yeah. There are also tools around that could provide you email addresses, like hunter.io or something, or you're using a platform like WhitePress, for instance, because there you have the websites already, there you have the contacts, and you always have the direct connection to the inbox. Yeah.
Correct.
Because just because you know the email address of a website, this doesn't mean that they're going to reply to you. So usually you're sending out much more contact requests or emails than you're getting replies. Yeah. And if you can then increase your success rate because you know the exact person to talk to or have a trusted intermediate, this is going to be beneficial for your overall strategy. On the other hand side, what other tools? It all depends on the scale that you want to do. Yeah. So as you know, a couple of years ago, people tended to look for example, content creation services, and there were all these content creation platforms out there which were creating content for you for cheap money. Yeah. Now it got even cheaper if you can prompt quite well.
Yeah. Correct.
So it all depends on what you want to do. Yeah, there are many things you can automate nowadays much easier than you could do it in the past, and also with a much more individual approach than, let's say, these classic. I think you also know these tools like Scrapebox from the past, where you could scrape websites on scale, also trying to include contact data and then just sending out mass emails. Usually, this can work, but you don't want to burn your brand. Yeah. Ultimately, it's always about your reputation as a website, as a reputation as a business. So I would not overstretch this, but it all depends on, your priorities, the speed you want to do, the resources that you have. Yeah, and as I've said, you don't need to build 10 links, 50 links, 20 links a month. Yeah? Usually, check, for instance, the growth rate of your website in a backlink tool, compare it to your competitors, then maybe add a specific bonus tip because you know that those tools don't find all the backlinks. And then you see, okay, maybe it's sufficient to build 5 backlinks. And then it's much easier also to allocate your budgets on those websites that tend to be a bit more, let's say, pricey. Yeah? And then you're having a higher quality of backlinks at the end as well.
Okay, so thank you for for your tips about the tools. It's actually 10 to noon, so we are almost on time. That's all the questions that I wanted to ask you and discuss the points. But I can see that we have actually 4 questions from the audience. So let's use the last 10 minutes to try to answer these questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do we have some questions? Let's see.
Holger had one, but we already answered this. So there was
Yes.
about AI.
Okay. So yeah, I can see that there are no specific questions. Most of them were already answered. Now it's guys' time to answer the question. If you're curious about some stuff that Stephan shared with us, so it's like a last-minute call for it. Okay. Yeah, so I guess we have no additional questions, but I actually wanted to ask you about one more thing as a dessert for the end of our conversation. I was thinking that maybe you can share with us the information, like what people can expect from your speech at the conference in Helsinki. What kind of knowledge you want to share? What do you want to focus on? Just tell us what you're going to present at the event.
Yeah. Okay. So I will have a talk there about Google Search Console, because this is the only tool I would take to an isolated island with me. Yeah, because it gives us the data from Google's perspective. They're getting us data on our pages indexed, how are they crawling our site, and so on and so forth. I've been working with Google Search Console for ages, yeah, when they were still called Google Webmaster Tools, and we had functionalities in there like a page rank, or they also were having a functionality on duplicate page titles. They were also presenting terms like keywords that were on your site and how often they were being used. And you can always ask yourself, why is a search engine providing this data? Because it does not make too much of a sense from a tool provider or from a search engine to create reports and surfacing data that are not important for you. Yeah.
Okay.
So just by purely publishing a report on structured data, it makes sense that structured data to some extent is important for the search engine. Otherwise, they would not build a report around it. And in my talk, I will mostly focus on the search analytics report, because there you can always have some small pitfalls, or you're not seeing the data complete, or no, you're not seeing the full picture. Yeah, I'm talking about, for example, keyword coverages, because overall you could have 1,000 clicks, but if you're checking the keywords that are driving clicks with a particular page, then you're ending up with maybe 200. So meaning 80% of the clicks are unknown. And this is something I need to know, because based on the strategy and based on the data I'm requesting, I could come to wrong assumptions. Yeah. And in particular, if you're working with a big website, using Google Search Console user interface or Google Search Console API is not sufficient anymore, because Google will tell you there, for example, in the stats, 0 clicks, 0 impressions. But then you go to the keyword section and you see, hey, there are some keywords with clicks. So how could it be that the page doesn't have any clicks? Yeah. And then you need to work with the BigQuery export, getting the data from there, because then you will see, okay, there are clicks for those URLs, but as Google is sampling the data in Google Search Console, you're not going to see it. And therefore, I'm going to prepare a couple of pitfalls that I was failing with in the past. And then we have a quite good overview what Google Search Console can do and what it can't do, and where you need additional tools like your own brain, for example.
Yeah, but actually, it's interesting, because most of us know this tool, right, and sometimes treat it as a basic stuff. But it's nice that you will help us discover like the things, some more sophisticated stuff that we can get from it. So
yeah, but ultimately it's always the same. Like, for example, WhitePress also knows functionalities that you as the company are thinking they are super, super important. And they're making life so much easier, but nobody's going to use it because they're just following the standard procedures.
Yeah, correct.
And it's the same thing also with SEO tools. So every SEO tool out there has, I would say, the consumption. Let's say 80% of the consumption is then going to end up with maybe 2 to 3 different functionalities, but having 200 of them. Yeah?
Yes, correct.
And they could be relevant for the audience, but nobody's using it. So one of my examples is always showing the people, for example, in Systrix, that you have a report there which is telling you how your page is ranking in Google search results. Because it could happen that Google is not only going to ignore your meta description, but it could also be that they're overwriting your H1, or that you're not visible with the structured data you think that is there. And this does have an impact ultimately on your CTR. And what we want to do as SEOs is not only ranking, we want to have the people on the website, and then we want them to convert, because the click also is not the ultimate goal. And there are so many data points you could work with, but most people ignore it, or they don't know that it's existing. And therefore, always start with the why is super, super important. Yeah. So tomorrow I'm going to have a 2-day training on Screaming Frog, and I'm always starting with this. So what do you want to achieve? And usually SEO teams can't answer this to me in a way that I'm being satisfied with their reply, because it makes a difference whether I'm saying, okay, my website is having, I don't know, 5,000 different landing pages. Yeah. But then you're saying, okay, which one of them are important? Even if they just say, I have no idea, then it's a quite different approach of how I can work with the data from Screaming Frog or any other crawler. Then when I'm saying, okay, my ultimate goal is to rank these 10 different pages. Okay, now let's analyze it. How are they internally linked? Are we having duplicate or near duplicates around this topic? Do we now need to consolidate them? how are they interlinked, and things like this. So you're getting a quite, despite you're looking on the same data, the questions and answers you're going to have are going to be fundamentally different. And then you're achieving results at the end.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, Stephan, so thank you for the introduction to your speech at the conference. I'm even more excited to meet you finally in real life there and have a good chat. And that's, again, what I recommend to all our participants today. Yeah, I guess we just, arrived to the end of the meeting. We're on time, which is super cool. It doesn't happen very often. It was a pleasure to meet you, Stephan, and thank you for sharing your expertise with us. I'm sure that the audience is satisfied with what you've said. I hope and I'm sure that it's not our last meeting, and yeah, we're going to have a chance to have some wider discussion in the future. To all the participants today, thank you for taking the time and joining us today. Obviously, you will receive an email to the recording. I mean, people who mark the checkbox or use the link for the subscription. Guys, I just recommend you to follow us in social media and on YouTube. We organize a lot of conversations like today with Stephan, so it's definitely more stuff that we want to share with you. We're going to organize even more in future, so please follow up us, and let's see each other again. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your time. Stephan, thank you very much, and see you soon.
Bye. Thanks for joining.